For some of us, the moments with Jesus have always come wrapped in eye-popping moments of joyful recognition. But this is the story of Jesus coming patiently to walk by someone who needed him very much, who had not had that kind of relationship that I believe he desires each one of us to have. And I am that person. I was raised in a Christian home. I could be found in Sunday school each Sunday morning, and bedtime prayers were always part of our lives. But in my home, we didn't speak about God or his plan for our lives. There was no recognition that the gifts each of us had been given were to be used for his purposes. He blessed us with home, food, and each other, but we moved through life with only the Sunday morning experience in bedtime prayers to be our touch with God. The firstborn in our family, I was the super responsible, good student, mature for my age kind of kid who had no clue what she was missing. I trained as a biology teacher, married my college sweetheart, settled into a stay-at-home role with our two children, living the kind of Ozzie and Harriet life of the 60s and 70s. But when my children were 7 and almost 11, that all changed. That husband no longer wanted to be married, and on that cold March morning, he left. My world fell apart, leaving me devastated, lonely, pretty angry. Suddenly I needed to find a job, carve out a new life, and I had no idea Jesus was walking by my side, longing to be part of that process. But he was there, quietly offering opportunities, but I still was not enjoying his company as I could have been. The adventures and the misadventures of the next 12 years as a single mom could fill a book. But there he was right at my side through it all, helping me make lemonade out of some pretty nasty lemons. I didn't know about Romans 8:28, or that I was living it. For starters, there were no biology teaching positions open at that time in our area. So just for now, I took a job in a bank. And there I met a woman, a pastor's wife, who invited me to a Friday evening Bible study in her church. Because I was lonely, especially when the children went to be with their dad, I accepted her invitation. But not so that I could grow closer to God, just to be with other people. But that was okay. God used it, and his hand, ever on my shoulder, had other plans. Slowly, I grew closer as we studied his word and shared God openly. There I began a lifelong, very real relationship with him, but I was still not fully there. The illusion of self-sufficiency, as Pastor Gary called it in his Ash Wednesday sermon, was alive and well in me. He patiently walked beside me, opening this door and that one, all the while I labored under the terrible misassumption that I was in charge and that it was my can-do efforts, my stick-to-itiveness that made life possible. But the seeds of listening for him and depending on him had been planted. After several years of growing employment responsibility in the world of banking, creating the bank's place in the greater community, there came a 10-month period of unemployment. And the bottom fell out again when banks began to merge. And once again, I was alone. While initially overwhelmed with emotions that unexpected change can bring, I now had the understanding of who it was that was at my side. On early morning walks in the quiet of that stillness, like Elijah in the cave, I waited until I recognized God in a still small voice. And then the thought came to me, and this time I recognized from where it came, to use the skills I had amassed over the previous 7 years in banking to start my own business, helping other businesses to meet their community responsibilities. And with that, Corporate and Community Connections was born. Once again, God's hand was on the throttle. One of those clients became my only client, and for years I had the joy of being the bridge between several of their large companies and the needy of the world, until I retired. Little did I ever imagine what would come to the life of this rather shy, stay-at-home mom whose self-confidence was pretty much in the tank that cold March morning in 1983. This time I recognized Romans 8:28, and I gave thanks. The Lord works for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. But he wasn't finished with me yet. In 2004, I got the idea to go to school in the evening and earn another degree, this time in art. Now, where do you suppose that idea came from? I emerged a painter, and now when I sell a painting, he gives purpose to that gift, as a good chunk of all my proceeds go to support clean water wells in Africa through Samaritan's Purse. God had laid on me the horror of, while we can send an orbiter through the rings of Saturn, somehow we can't get clean water to every person on this planet. He showed me greater purpose for whatever talent he had given me. And each year when I send my check to Samaritan's Purse, it is because of a very real relationship he wanted all along. I learned I was not in control, and the best way was to seek his will. During this same time, he was in my personal life too. And one day, while still single and hurrying to grab a burger for my son who was between a swim team practice and a baseball game, I met a man named Bruce, who after several years became my husband. And this happened after I had decided never to marry again. Once again, the Lord had other plans, provided another door to walk through, and because I invited him into my life, I heard him. We are the parents of 5 and the grandparents of 7. We're about to celebrate 25 years of marriage in May. But now I ask him each day in the stillness of my pre-dawn devotions, what is it you have in mind for me today, Lord? With whom do you want me to speak? What is it you want me to do today? And now I recognize those coincidences that are not coincidental at all. And what a kick it is to see each day where he has led me and for what reason. As retirement loomed on the horizon, we wondered where we should live. And through people and circumstances, too numerous to name here, but I believe in his leading, we landed in Southport. And because we could not find the church we were looking for one Saturday afternoon for the next morning, just for one Sunday, we would attend that little white church near the post office. A coincidence? I think not. That was a dozen years ago. Because of adult Sunday school, Christ care groups, opportunities like Stephen Ministry to help others, this gal is living proof that Romans 8:28 is alive and well for all who seek him. What seems to be bad can turn into some pretty wonderful parts of life with his help and leading. You see, for much of my life I made a much better Monday morning quarterback, only seeing in retrospect the love and the guidance he had provided. But now it tickles me to recognize that I believe to be the small whisper in everyday moments. To God alone be the glory. And thank you for listening.